It was just maybe possibly about 100 yards up the street here, where the road begins to be elevated. And as we came down there, our platoon sergeant, one of the most combat ready men that we ever met, and he spotted a German outpost dug into the embankment, and he checked it, and there were 2 German soldiers in this outpost, and they were both sitting there asleep with their rifles locked between their knees. And Pop took 2 other guys who were on that side of the tank, took them down there with him, Aloysius Campa and George Sampson. And Pop reached in, grabbed a hand on each muzzle of the 2 rifles, and just yanked them, jerked them out of their hands. You can imagine awaking to something like that. And the one German reacted so violently that Campa evidently felt threatened, and he fired, and he hit the German in the head, and the other German panicked and came screaming up out of the hole onto the roadway. But then we hadn't gone too much further when there was an awful scream, and then an explosion, and the lead tank was hit. And the velocity of the tank guns, the German tank guns, is so great that they scream, the shells literally scream as they approach the target. Well, since we were on both, our squad was formed on both sides of the tank, you can imagine how that sort of would disperse us. So the tank driver immediately threw the engine into reverse, and then the whole crew abandoned the tank, and now you have a tank running wild, a 32-ton monster, and everybody is scattering, trying to get out of its way. And finally it left the roadway down the embankment, and it circled in the field here to our left, and that's where it burned. But then we formed along a fence line over there after our lead tank was knocked out, because that was our tank in a sense. And our squad reformed there, and then Major McGeorge came over to us, and he was an amazing man. Here was a tank officer, a tank major, on the ground with the infantry. Now that is an oddity and a rarity. But he came over and almost in a fatherly tone told us what he was going to do, that he was going to get the tanks off the road. He had 1 tank on the left side of the road, 3 tanks on the right side of the road. And we would, at the signal, we would make now a concerted dash toward the entrance to the village with every gun that was able to fire firing, and that's what we did. And as we approached the village was on fire, and we could see German soldiers withdrawing to more rearward positions. But when we got there, the tanks formed up along the roadway, and the entrance of the village had nothing but foundations with rubble filled foundations. But then the rest of it began to evolve, and it was not pleasant. It was the beginning of a terrible, terrible night.